Like 4 million.
Okay, guys, I need to get a started. It's good so far.
Huh?
It's going good so far.
So the board meeting tomorrow starts at around 7:30.
Emma, you belong in that group.
Oh, I'm on the wrong side?
You are in the wrong side.
Oh.
N-
With the consultants over here. You said that was government. I'm not.
no, it's not just government, non-profit and research
Oh,
institutions,
okay. I guess
all those. I mean, it's not, there is no divide. You can still be here, but we want to capture, we want to capture the perspective from different,
Okay.
because now it is a working session. So if you don't mind, if you can sit there.
He's telling me to move.
Well, it's like to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
No, she's not leaving. You just
No, I'm moving over there. I can do that. It was over there. You said government.
No. It's not just government, also non-profit, so that we can capture the perspective in a better way. So guys, we can get started now. So now the fun part is. Okay, guys, let's get started now. Before lunch, we want to finish one more panel session. So now it is the panel session. So what we are going to do in the panel is, I will talk a little bit the background and all those, and then we will discuss some of the key questions. And how we have done this is, this side is mainly consultant or technology provider, then utilities, and then government, state, federal, and non-profit, so that we can get. And then how we are going to run is, first I will go over some basic slide, then I will pose some questions. And these questions are coming from NSF reviewers, all right, going forward, and we do have to address this. So that's what we will give 10-minute time to each, and then I need to hear perspective from all three, what we are calling it, three subgroups. Now, pay attention whenever you answer or respond, put your microphone on so that we can record, and then everything get recorded and transcript, and all these we will put it in the website, as we said earlier, because this is a teamwork. So now you are allowed to discuss with each other in each group and talk, or you can talk in general. So that's how we are going to do this. So giving little bit background on this, you heard in the morning some presentation in general, smart water, digital water, Yeah, I mean, it's non-profit is there, government, non-profit, utilities, consultant, technology provider. So now, and this is how we will do all three sessions now going forward. So this is the first panel session, then we will have second one, stakeholder, and then the third one is point of departure, where we go from here. This is not like a conference, we came, present, and everyone leaves. The key is we have a deadline. We have to submit the proposal next year. So we really need a concrete action plan. We need all this thought if we are going to play as a team. So let me go and give you a little bit brief before we start our panel session. So you are representing consultant, right? Yeah. If you are representing Swan, then you have to go there. No, but you are representing the consultant, that's good. So couple of things came. One thing is we have to be very clear what NSF want is they don't want any existing center to die. What that means is what we are trying to create a new organization, but at the same time we have to play as a team. So NSF did funded what I'm showing you. There are many other initiatives going on in the water area, but these are some of the key ones which came. One was at Stanford, which is also called water, so it's called Renuit, water reuse technology. Mainly they are looking, because they are in California, water reuse. So it's very focused on water reuse. Another ERC is also there at Rice University, which is focused on nanotechnology, mainly for treatment. So NSF want, if we are going to create this new center going forward, if we are successful, how we are going to integrate existing effort. They shouldn't die, right? And that's the key, is that how they should come and play. So we did talk to both Rice and also with Stanford, and they are very supportive. So they will be part of it. Then there are some other also, they are not ERCs, but they are also funded by NSF. One is Quasi, long back, mainly for hydrological at Texas Austin. And then we have also one they call UWIN at the Colorado State, where there are many universities are involved. And then there are many other initiatives going on with federal, state, and other things. So they want us to look into all these and try to develop. So what they are calling is, one reviewer used the term center of centers, because it has to be ERC, Engineering Research Center, whatever name we give is Smart Water, but it has to be a center, Engineering Research Center. But they are saying that looks like this one will be center of centers to integrate, and that's our concept is. Again, when you try to go like a very wide angle, the challenge also comes is, are they going to solve everything? But one thing let me tell you, which it became very clear, me and Paulo, we both attended NSF ERC workshop. So whosoever got funding, they were called at NSF headquarters. They didn't talk a lot of research. What they were talking is more leadership role, what the new organization look like. So 4 pillars. So all of you got the handout reading material, and we gave the handout also. So it's good if you can take that handout out, because we will be discussing that. So in that handout, it's a 3-page handout we gave you. We didn't give you the full proposal. Going forward, if you want, we can share the full proposal. But 3-page is mainly, it's easy to read, 3-page. The first page is in public domain because we have got funded. So first page is what we submitted. Now that doesn't mean we cannot revise or we cannot do. So that's important is, if you read the first page, there is a structure of that. Do you have one handout, Meghna, or no? Okay, so Kathy had one. Yeah, if you can give me. So I just wanted to go over. So if you see here, the format is like this, and it has to be just 1 page, right? Because this has to go to the Congress, on the website. That's what NSF works. So if you look at here, it starts with vision, proposed vision. And then it goes with intellectual merit and broader impact. So it's very important to understand the format, because this is the first page. That's what everyone will read first. Or if it is funded, this is what goes on the website. They don't put full proposal on the website. The only thing NSF puts on the website is this page. So if you go to NSF, you will find the same thing, right? Because we got funding. Now, if the ERC got funded, again, it will be the same thing. So proposed vision is very important. And let me tell you, the vision mainly it should talk not just water utility or the water in general, but societal impact. So this is generation 4. I showed you this. All these are either generation 1 or generation 2. What is the difference, generation 4? I mean, they call generation 4 ERC. The biggest difference in generation 4 ERC is it's a 4-pillar. We have to address the 4-pillar of ERC, and I will show you in the slide what those 4 pillars are. We have to address that 4-pillar. The second is also important is, if you see here, intellectual merit. What is the new? They want transformative, not incremental. That's a very important term, is not incremental research. It has to be transformative. If it is not transformative, it sounds like a project, then it doesn't qualify as a ERC. They don't want that we go to ERC and say this, for 10 years we will do 20 projects. Each university or each team will do this, and then we will add all together. No, it will not work. So they don't want as a 20 or 30 different projects. They want all to be, of course, we will do as a project, but it has to be tied very well for mission and vision, what in the end we will get. So intellectual merit is important. Broader impact is also very important, that how it will affect the whole society, workforce, we talked about that. So it's not just the research component, and that's generation 4 is important. Now, today we will talk about little bit this also. There are many initiatives going on, but how it can be integrated and brought. You heard today different terms: intelligent water, smart water, digital twin, right? Data analytics, artificial intelligence. All these adjectives or buzzwords, they're basically, the whole concept is how to be more efficient, resilient, right? That's the whole thing is. So that we need to talk. We also heard many definition of this one water integrated. Biju brought that we need a new governance structure, and that's important. That's what NSF wants to know, that how this will be implemented. If this is successful, is it a new structure we need, new policy we need? So in our team, we have people from, we have divided the whole team into 5 themes. Governance is one of our themes, where people are from law and policies and all those. So that is also important. So we are not all just engineer in the team. And going forward, that's what we will discuss after lunch, is stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder is not just university here. We are talking about the entire water life cycle stakeholder, including NGOs and societal and all those whom we should reach out. So that's the purpose of this. The other is, Hardeep showed you this. Again, we are going to change the figure, because one comment we got is this looks very coastal. And they are saying if you are going to implement this in entire US, it should represent everything, not just a coastal. So we are working on it to get a good graphics. And we are not good, professors are not good graphic designers, so we have to hire graphic designer to come. But if you have idea, and that's what we will discuss now a little bit more. So how we take this and where is the test bed, that we need to discuss today in the end. Workshop, should we go as a theme next workshop? Hardeep wants to get one in Miami area because of the Biscayne Bay. He presented that. That will be a good test bed for resilience. Houston is another good test bed, and we will hear from them as we discuss more. Houston is doing a lot of data integration and all those. It will be good to have one test bed there. Then DC water with governance and all those, WSSC is here. So that's a really Potomac, the whole area can be a good. Chicago area can be good. Some of the people are not here, but they are very much interested. So it's not like whosoever is here, there are many other people, Oak Ridge National Lab, Sandia Lab, they couldn't come because of some conflict, but they are very much interested. So they may get involved in second or third workshop. So that's kind of, we need to today discuss and come with some ideas. Now, the other is also important here is, we are still working on this graphics. We haven't finished yet. One thing came very clearly from one reviewer especially, that it's not very clear by reading all these what they are integrating, what is the convergence here. The physical water, digital water, if you see here, the convergence is, there are 2 different sciences converging. The whole data science and the water science. I mean, again, that's what we want to hear from you. What is the convergence here? Is it two major discipline has to converge, or there may be other discipline? But basically, again, the water science in itself is a big discipline. I'm not saying there's a lot of so you are seeing what the small these droplets. That's where we will come with what is converging to create a good water science or data science. Again, in the data science, there is a hardware, software, now artificial intelligence. So what are those domains? And then these two domains is converging to give us cyber physical system, what we are calling it. These two has to converge. And then we are talking about creating two kind of, you heard about that, is important. Workforce development is very important, and innovation ecosystem. So NSF want us to have kind of how we will address these by this convergence, what are real implementation is the biggest deal. They are saying that they liked our mission vision, that's not a problem. But the key they are saying is how this will be implemented in the real world. Is it just like a rocket science? If it is not really being implemented, then it will just be an academic exercise. NSF is going to invest for 10, 20 years and nothing comes out of it. Societal impact, basically, that's the key. And then that side is the key is also what we are showing you here is we haven't decided, and that's what we want to discuss today is where this test bed, we cannot go and do this or implement, NSF will not buy. They are saying that select some sites where you want to test it, implement it in a scale level or in a watershed level, whatever you guys decide, but it has to be. So what we are showing you, we didn't show you in the US map right now because we don't know where it is. And that's up to all of us today to discuss and decide. Is it Miami will be one, or Potomac River Basin is another one, or Chicago, or the West Coast, or Columbia Basin, right, Magna? So we don't know. We haven't decided yet. But NSF want a specific. We cannot go in the full proposal saying we will implement somewhere. No, we have to get the test bed. And if you see here carefully, we also have two what we call is test bed. One is the real world. But then we also have experimental, which we are partnering with. Melissa couldn't be here, Gwinnett County. They have created what they call is the experimental test bed where we can simulate a lot of things in the watershed level. So that we are thinking, we haven't decided that one. Second, we are also thinking of Oak Ridge National Lab as our virtual test bed. We are in discussion with them. They couldn't come because of some conflict, but I will be going sometime in January there to Oak Ridge to talk about, because they are already working with NOAA and other for that. So, and then also with other federal, we can talk how we can create this also. USGS can be a good partner because in a lot of my project, I use a lot of USGS data. So that's another thing is how we use virtual, and they liked it. They liked our virtual test bed. Experimental, we are saying Gwinnett County, but every university has their own also. I'm not saying that Oregon will have their own test bed. Illinois has, Virginia Tech has our own test bed, but they are scale test beds. We don't have we can simulate the full scale level. So that's the one thing is, so this is what is showing the three virtual test bed, then the real world, and also experimental test bed. So that's what we promise that we will have, the virtual test bed, the real world that we need to decide today. Real world can be 3 or 5. We can't go more than that because that's also becomes a problem. If we say 10, they will say it's not doable. Why you are doing 10? Most of them, ideally, we should go with 3 or 5, and that we can discuss. We haven't decided anything on that. So this is the 4 pillar that what we need to address. So research is one pillar. Second is innovation ecosystem. Then we have workforce development, and then stakeholder engagement. So in our full proposal, we cannot just go with research. If we haven't addressed what innovation ecosystem will look like, whatever we are doing, we will not get it. And then also is important is how we address workforce. Workforce is not just high school education or university education. They are talking about the entire life cycle there also. And Glenda is leading that. So we have a theme leader for all of these, each themes. And people are working in each of these. So we have created the theme. Going forward, That's what we want to engage you in each of the theme or looking into overall. So that's how we are going to build this whole thing. So that's kind of giving you, so this is what we propose to NSF, that this is what it will look like as a workforce development throughout the life cycle. This is stakeholder and innovation ecosystem. We are still working on it to build that, and we can talk. We can have a workshop separately also in each of these areas that we need to discuss today. So that's why this is the first workshop where we need to refine what we want to do from here, how we build this whole thing. Now, there are a couple of things in this slide. There's a lot of stuff here. But how we research to address challenge in the water data science, because if you look at this slide, which I showed you earlier, this is what the story we are trying to tell, that these two will converge, water and data science. I'm not saying it's not a lot of stuff is going on. Gigi talked about digital twin and all those, but it's not like in a holistic way, integrated way at the watershed scale. So that's what the storyline is, which we are trying to tell to NSF, and they are pretty much, they liked it, that's why they funded, now they want us to go forward with it. So these are some of the things came out by looking into all the reviews question, and I will pose the separate one with each one. But this is what exactly came from when we submitted the proposal, that what exactly we will do and how it will influence the society. So now, this one, what you are seeing here is the vision of a smart one water. So these are the questions which was posed by our reviewers. So what I'm going to do now is, we have divided this into the three. So we want to hear from each perspective that what do you think about this? So I will give you 10 minutes each one to think about. You have this 3-pager also, which we gave you, and most of the stuff is written here also. So can you take 10 minutes time and think about this in each group so that we can hear perspective? That's why we divided this into 3. So I will give you 10 minutes. You can talk among yourself also. It's not like it has to be individual thinking. But I really want you guys to take some time, 10 minutes, and give your perspective on these 3. Right, yeah, these are utility.
Is it in the handout, the vision for this one?
What's that?
The vision written?
These are the questions.
Which vision? Did we have an actual vision statement?
Yeah, that's the whole
Okay.
thing. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought we had a short synopsis of the vision. No?
Vision, no,
Okay.
no.
So this is sort of like, you know, I've gone on these like FEV surveys, Federal Employee Viewpoint surveys, where the question was, how, you know, much do you love your job, or how well do you think we're doing?
Right.
And the possible answers are, you know, pretty good, great,
Right.
awesome, truly awesome, right?
Right.
So my question here is there, you know, in terms of like critical thinking, right?
I want a
Is
critical.
there
I want
challenges?
Yeah.
Or is that coming later?
No. I want you to even thrash it.
Huh?
Even thrash it and say that I didn't like it. This the whole way you have written the vision.
So I have a question that relates to your previous slide when I raised my hand. There was the drops of water.
Right, drop of right. Yeah,
So
but
you had
we haven't done it.
physical drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was just waiting for. I
that
saw
one.
you. Yeah, I thought that once we get
Physical drivers, digital water.
right.
The end goal is
I don't know why I don't do this.
the end goal is this cyber-physical social system. Social.
Right.
Where does socioeconomics comes in? Is it in the shaky drop here, or you know, right?
These are the things we want. Because we are still
Sorry,
working.
I'm going back to the questions because people need those.
Of people.
You need a social science prompt, is that what you're saying?
Right.
I think
Socio-economic
is
If you want to engineer some type of social system,
then you need a job.
I think you need that. It's kind of an essential component.
It is because socioeconomic is.
Or you've made a conscious decision to exclude it for some reason. Right? But you have to address the question in some way.
And this is the problem because we don't have infrastructure. One is you have given us. This is not going anywhere.
We are talking about integration.
That's what I want.
Right.
And this is what you are telling me. I want you to bring in front of me.
So, okay. So,
No,
Not-
don't feel sorry. No, nothing. No. You trust.
I don't want to be
No.
needlessly provocative or whatever, right?
It's not
But I kind of like the exchange, right?
This is a building, right? This is. I don't want you to. Even if you say I don't like this, you guys are talking wrong track.
No, I think this is, I think what you're doing is, I think, just so we're set the record straight, I think what you're doing is really important. I think USGS is a big part to play, okay? And I want to, I got my PhD from the University of Waterloo, Ontario, but I'm at
I got my,
USGS.
yeah, but I got also from, that's why I
Oh,
wanted
really?
to tell you. I did my PhD in civil engineering. No,
Okay, University of Waterloo, Ontario, okay. That's okay. Did you live at Winona Hague? Did you live at Winona Hague? That's actually now we got, yeah, that's something more. I was a good on this one. But you must know, so I'm also an assistant, working group, it just kind of, I didn't know I was gonna be in it until the last minute. On systems modeling. So, no, but I'm a system. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like I was there from the end of '86. So, but I tried to do it. Yeah, and I wasn't really thinking about systems science or anything. So, all right.
That's the whole purpose.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. So I want to show you. Yeah. Right. You know, we also have was looking at the corrosivity of water. We have this national water quality assessment program. One of the reports that we put out are actually maybe a couple of articles in the report. Is looking at the corrosivity of water as a guide to cities and so forth. So think about already struck another really good conversation. Oh, yeah. Okay, that'd be great. Yeah. Okay. Because you know, you're already okay. That also.
Yeah, but what they are saying is that just like you cut and pasted. I just took this.
Because we only see three.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I can move the slide. If you move the slide,
Just making sure that
this is this one.
number 4.
Right. Then this one, how to do? Can you identify last one?
Perfect. Okay.
This is what we want. Record this. This is because then we can win this. After we can. Gone into the test.
That's right.
I talked to a lot of
Plan.
That was
Cecilio, right? I had sent you an email after I talked to him. He never got back to me.
because once we know the project number,
So there's no problem in the older generation.
no, because it integrates. That was my point when I showed this one. When I showed this, the USGS guy told me this is not right. I said, the whole point. Tell me. This whole bubble. Okay, perfect. We said we will leave off because that's what federal said. Lunch. Let me see here. That's what I'm saying. So if you come by 11:45. Now we want Guys, we need to wrap up so that we can hear from all. Okay, guys, we need to get back so that we can hear from all three groups. Before lunch, we want to get before lunch. Hello, hello. Done. Okay, let's hear from. Okay, Meghna, done, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, guys, let's get started so that we don't go into the lunch because everyone hungry. We didn't have the breakfast morning, so we can have lunch. Okay, so why don't we start with? Let's start with this side because they were working to hear what's the key, and you can take this, Ms. Celine, if you want to stand there, or use your microphone because we want to get recorded. Right, yeah. So that's better. Use microphone. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Now, whatever way you want to start, so that everyone can hear.
Sunil.
Yeah.
Sunil.
Okay. Okay, guys. So let's get started. So let's start from this end, and then we will go. So let's hear all 5 questions. What you guys thought? What's key? And please use this so that we can get recorded, and all transcript will be available.
You were starting, yes.
Good. So I think I'll start with the first question. Does the scope of work presented a big vision that could be transformative for the water sector? Well, it triggered a big discussion with our group. I think the short answer to the question is yes. But of course, it needs to be done right. And we feel that the proposal, needs to show a business case. Also, a business case with a clear distinction between goals and tools. Because in the presentation we see, the goals and tools sometimes get confused with each other. So we need to understand the objective and how to get there. It needs to show value for our stakeholders. And that value can be along the lines of efficiency, and efficiency can be governance. It also needs to help stakeholders understand costs and how cost improvements can be made. And I think in general that there should be like an overall community of perception of quality. So how will this improve the overall quality in your cities? And these three, efficiency, cost, and overall perception of quality, can be mapped in a scorecard themes that can help stakeholders prioritize. So it's almost like a benchmark. And this has been done, of course, in the past. As Arcadis, we've done the Sustainable City Water Index, which is a global water index. But these kind of indexes can be transformed to the US and to US stakeholders. So we are able to compare apples with apples, which is something this discussion very much needs. At the same time, we can feed that discussion with global best practices. We had a little bit of a discussion around how the city of Amsterdam, with the water utility in Amsterdam, Waternet, is integrated within the city of Amsterdam, and it's driving efficiency to quite an extent. As a matter of fact, the New York City DEP is trying to learn from the city, not to copy, but to see how lessons learned can be translated to their own organization. So overall, I think our group thinks that yes, this can be transformative, but the rules and the touch points needs to be well defined. Thank you.
Okay, I have the second one. And the question was, do you agree that the implied outcome, a holistic view of the One Water digital system, could then inform policy, governance, and even future designs? We actually put no on the board up here, just to be a bit bold, but we see that really being almost reverse of that, right? Where the Smart One Water Center needs to coordinate and integrate with the policy and governance that many utilities follow, right, and the regulatory aspects of it, resulting in the outcome of that holistic One Water system, right? So it's almost reverse of how the question is stated.
I have question number 3. What value does the vision of the Smart One Water offer to your organization? Please also identify tangible benefits to your organization and its stakeholders. Well, from the consultant community, we believe this will be a gigantic economic stimulus package. And we say that because it will help utilities actually accelerate their capital spend. If you look at the trends in the industry, capital spending has never really recovered from the recession. It's actually still trending downward. Providing utilities access to better data and a better decision framework will help the utilities to initiate more quickly, more efficient, and less costly projects. Also, on the O&M side, there's a continued trend in the disparity between O&M spending and capital spending. It reached an all-time high last year of $50 billion. We believe, again, providing better data and better decision frameworks will help utilities to become more proactive and do less costly operations and maintenance activities, which will free up even more money to do capital projects. And ultimately, this translates into affordability for customers, which is really a huge challenge for the industry right now.
I have the fourth question. How do you foresee the execution of the Smart One Water vision within your organization? And then please also identify barriers that you expect your organization to face, which may impede the successful adoption of the Smart One Water vision. So from a consulting industry perspective, I think what we believe is first we need to have that alignment, organizational alignment A lot of the consulting industry consultants have these different departments or the different services. For instance, the transportation from a smart city perspective, smart utility perspective, they're already aligned within the organization. For example, Stantec is right now doing this hyper-connected cities, doing a benchmark similar to what he mentioned for how cities are from a smart utility perspective. They are interconnected. So that would be the first one. And then integrating that one water vision and the framework in some of the design and the other projects that we execute for the clients within the watershed would be the second key one. But going even sometimes beyond just the water, depending on how much value that we get out of other infrastructure in that watershed. And then from a challenge perspective, I think everyone agrees here that talent is going to be definitely a challenge. So we have to work with the future workforce to make sure that they are ready to take up on this whole data-driven initiatives from a watershed perspective. So working with the universities and to make sure that there are courses established for them to get trained on these types of projects. And then another challenge would be when we work within a watershed that has multiple entities governing that whole watershed, how do we convince the clients within that watershed to make those right decisions? Because everyone has to have their own pot of money, and they are governed by different policies, and depending on their pain points. So it goes back to what Jim was saying. We have to have a more watershed-based policy and a governance that drives everything from that point.
Okay, and I'll finish up with the fifth question. Can you identify scenarios for the communities and regions you serve that illustrate how the vision of the scope of work technologies can be delivered for One Water services? And a couple examples are really drivers that a lot of our industry partners are facing. One is consent decrees. That was the driver really for the MSD of Cincinnati to start their watershed monitoring program to be able to reduce the capital expenditures. We're seeing a very similar operation in South Bend, Indiana, where the cost of compliance with their combined sewer overflow is going to be much greater than the population was able to serve. So they looked at a digital transformations to start to solve that problem. Another driver is drought. And drought is obviously very large issue in California, where we've seen utilities like East Bay Mud not only have major issues with water supply as well as having to deal with the outcomes of drought, which are major wildfires throughout their watershed. So they're looking at integrated water resource planning by optimizing the use of their existing water sources, transforming their wastewater into recycled water to close the water cycle, and where possible capturing stormwater to be able to augment their limited water supply. So that's a good example where they're going to manage all three parts together. Gwinnett County is a very similar example. And then the third one is climate change, another driver. We heard about Miami-Dade and the work they're doing, but also San Francisco is also doing a big seawall project where they're looking at how do they protect their system, which includes their wastewater system from sea level rise. So I think the drivers that our communities are seeing are really going to be the scenarios that help to make it more feasible to do One Water services. And the last one is workforce. The workforce now is the young workforce is really adept to digital technology, and they're going to expect this type of application going forward in the future. So I think as a younger workforce comes up in the organization, they're getting more receptive to these digital transformations, the digital framework that is necessary to really integrate all these different data sources from water, stormwater, water reuse, wastewater, and different policies from different groups together.
Great. Perfect. You guys did a great job. Okay, so now we move to utility section. Anyone can take, you can use your microphone.
So with the utilities, actually, we have a summary statement to share with you guys of all the 5 questions. So
Sure.
maybe a little different format than what the first group came up with. Would that be okay with you, Sunil? Yeah? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we could do is, I'll just give a little summary of everybody's thoughts that we came up with, and then our individual colleagues can, share the individual case studies and stuff. So, a little bit closer. Okay, how about now? So, so the way we started with the vision, a statement that was in the proposal and the first document, and sort of came up with a slightly adapted version, a little bit more shorter, smaller, like in terms of more clear and crisp and easy to understand. And so what the utilities sort of proposed was that maybe from our perspective, what Smart One Water would really do is to sort of transform the way people think about and interact with water ecosystems. And ecosystem is really more general in terms of not just water system, but also other systems that interact with water, like for example, transportation might or other infrastructure might, right? So we definitely need to define that. And then there were lots of different discussions from that. The discussion of the vision statement sort of created this new, more bottom-up discussions and sort of very organic discussions on what we meant specifically by this. And so I'm just going to summarize the 3 of them that I saw in the discussions, and then our colleagues can highlight. One was we said, well, specifically what we envisioned Smart One Water could do for utilities is sort of, it could first help us advance our measurement and decision support for adaptive management and for improved decision making. And what I mean by improved is there were lots of different issues that came under the word improved decision making. We had some discussions on equity, resilience, sustainability, public health impacts, economics, rates, recreation, assets. And then there were these case studies. We talked about how this could help with improved efficiency and capacity related decision making. And so New York had a really great, Jennifer talked about a case study there. You want to highlight that a little bit, Jennifer?
Yeah, I was just mentioning that if we had, thank you. If we had the robust data sets available, for example, it could help us with predictive operations of the water supply system. Specifically, the city delivers approximately 1 billion gallons a day. This water is not delivered, in equal increments. There are peak hour demands, right? And one thing I didn't mention is that along with those peak hour demands are the disinfection rates. So we do chlorine boost as it goes into distribution. So if we had this type of Smart One Water system, we would be able to integrate the data so it could tell us as we're ramping up for that peak hour what the dosage rate should be. Right now, we do the water quality sampling, and an hour later we get the results back confirming that we're dosing at the correct rate, but we don't have the analytics available to tell us as we're ramping up exactly what that dosage should be. So it's all based on operator knowledge. And that's something that could be, immensely beneficial.
And so that discussion then led to this idea that, hey, what we really see is that with this, when people will really begin to improve their own value of water, and the value of water would help us, this improved value of water will actually help us not just with day-to-day operations, like Jennifer mentioned, but also planning for both near and long-term futures. So as our storms, frequency curves change, how do we plan for those incoming storms? So both near-term as well as long-term futures, climate change impacts us. And then we also had a discussion on the training of the next workforce, which is also very important for the utilities because, we have quite a few folks who are going to be retiring soon. So how do we create this body of knowledge through the digital environment to be able to help quickly train and bring people up to speed as they join the workforce? And while this was really fun to explore the opportunities here, one of the issues that came to us in the discussion was also that well, this is great because eventually we can expect it to enhance our physical and digital security of the water resources, the water infrastructure, and the stakeholders who are involved in this. But we need to be able to also respect the needs for transparency and trust. And Mike had a great case study he wanted to highlight on why it's important to think about how a digital environment could create, challenges with transparency issues and trust issues. Do you want to highlight that a little bit? Please do. So it's sort of, it provides a really good case study in terms of thinking about actual practical challenges.
Where I forgot what we said.
It's about the wastewater and water treatment.
Oh,
Yeah.
so if we had a good digital system and we had a good database, one of the things that would happen, regardless of the governmental structure of the utilities, I always get nervous when people want to reorganize things. Mostly it's a waste. Is they share data. We work very closely with our Bureau of Environmental Services. That's the wastewater, stormwater utility in the city. And if we had really good data and we had pressure sensors all over the system and we had a lot more meters than we have now, we could do a much, much better job of informing BES on what water they are going to receive from where when. And right now, I think most of the sewer utilities, at least in the West, where water is kind of a problematic thing, are sometimes having difficulty moving things through the system because water conservation has got so good that we're often might not have enough water in the system to move brown trout downstream, as they like to call it. So I think that that would be a really good thing. And right now, we're not prepared to do that at all. We don't have that level of data.
Thank you.
All right.
And then there was thank you. And there were just a couple of discussions about some existing tools people are using in the community, like the Puddle system in Oregon and Portland. And then Jennifer talked about the operational support tool that their utility is using. So there are some existing tools people are already leveraging. And so it would be good to sort of explore how utilities could, expand on them and enhance them. So I'd like to open it for other things I might have missed in the summary. You guys want to chime in?
Yeah, just put that.
I think one aspect I have seen in one of the slides, it says integration of data science and water science. I think I like that because that's what probably we are trying to do in Houston Water, which is water science itself also need to be evolved. For example, Manning's roughness numbers we are using forever. Whenever Mr. Manning's developed that, and we have been using it. Now, that has impact on design and our operations. So that, in some cases, we need to have maybe water science itself need to be revisited. Using data. Now, data is a big factor in the future. Now, artificial intelligence, machine learning, everybody talks about, but that's reality. Everything would be kind of fully automated or augmented reality. There are different names people are talking about, but it's all about data and science. It's not only data, not only science. So I think those two we need to address systematically in the industry, water industry, to be able to develop not only the tools, the workforce. That is a big component because future workforce will be different from current day workforce that we are familiar with. How different? There is another research component is involved. But I think we all need to think about the future a little bit. And every decision making that we are trying to do also Houston Water, looking at 50 years from now, whether that is how good that is 50 years from now, but at least we are trying to make 10 years, 15 years to 20 years, that is good enough. So, and using lots of assumptions, lots of knowledge that evolving. Those things systematically, how can we can do it more accurately. There should be a systematic process of learning, both water science and data science. I think these two aspects, we have to take it seriously. It's not like best available information we have to use for doing everything that we do. We have to improve our best available information at all times. That's my comment in general.
Right. It's good you brought that. Maybe when we go to the federal, USGS has some comment on that. And that's what we want. I mean, we are still working on it, but I don't think the good point was brought is where is the socioeconomic here?
I can just add 1 minute. I really like it. I have been following USGS technological advances for a long time. I'm a big fan of USGS, what they do. And if we learn from what USGS is doing,
Right.
learning.
No, and that's what I mentioned, that in the Pipe ID project we are using. Okay, good. Any other before we move to? Yes.
I have one general question. So,
Sure.
Smart One water graphic you have up here, that's supposed to be the culmination of what's in kind of all the components of your vision statement, how you're bringing it.
Right. So we are still working, as you can see here. The reason I brought this up is
The only thing that I would add, 'cause I think it's great, is that there does seem to be, there's no connection with the ultimate goal of this is make better decision, adaptive management. So if you have teardrops that talk about data science and water science, there needs to be something in there that's bringing this data together, it seems to me, to incorporate some kind of, this is how you're helping improve things through some kind of management teardrop. I don't know how you would include that in your graphic.
Sure.
Maybe you do. If it is included, I think it should be highlighted.
Yeah, we had the same comment. There's missing like some sort of decision-making framework or governance or something where the two things come together to use the knowledge to make a decision, right?
This is purely scientific. When I look,
Right. No, I 100% agree. This is what I told to John also. This is from academic point of view, this looks sense, data science and but socioeconomic is missing and the whole output of management. So yeah, we can talk with the time, but these are the important thing, and that's why we will talk about that in the third panel, where we go, how we can engage, how we can improve that thing. So any other quick question, comments from utility? Great. So this was really good. I mean, you hear from this. So now let's go to what we call federal, state, non-profit. Okay. Regulator, no, not just regulator.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. We're going to do this in a team way here.
Sure,
And so for the first question, does SOW present a big vision that could be transformative for the water sector? Our group really spent time discussing this in two particular areas that came out about the unifying data systems and the accessibility of data, and provide more detail.
Sure. So I'm going to take a different tack. I don't know how I ended up with federal and state and nonprofit, but I think I fit really well with the team. So we had a very rich discussion there with the team. So let me start with the second half of the fourth question as an opener, and then I'll go from there, because the question is identify barriers. So we discussed quite a bit. The emerging theme was some of the threats or the barrier for a Smart One water vision was, if you use electric companies or the electric sector as an example, they had a national grid as a model, which kind of drove, creating the need for data, standardizing all that as a driver, because in a sense, interoperability was the driver there. So one of the barrier we saw was, what is a driver that we are trying to attain this vision? So we saw the biggest barrier as it exists, and which is probably an opportunity for Smart One Water, is the barrier of water sector is highly fragmented. So is the data. Data is collected by various sectors or operators of water just for their use, but never with a single purpose of a common use which everybody else can consume from. So identifying that as a barrier and then using that as a driver, because interoperable data, coming, so that as a basis. Now going back to the big vision, most of the discussions were around, the usefulness or the utility of the vision. Because the first one was unifying the data. Because again, since it's been collected for different purposes, how do you bring it together? And then also curating the sources. That way, you have a reliable data coming from a curated source with the purpose of general use by all the stakeholders. So that was the common theme among our decision. So some of the themes that came out was the utility of the data. Again, I'm not going to stick with the questions here. I'm going to read from our notes here. The biggest use we identified were for, number one, for infrastructure planning or planning in general, especially with the population shift, because which is affecting both communities from where the population is moving from and also the new community to, the first one, they leave a stress and creating a water stress or a demand stress to the communities they move into. The second one is being resiliency, from the perspective of any sort of disaster or anything. How do you plan for, based on what is coming, if at all, any warning at all? And then the recovery side, that's where the major, value. And then holistic water accounting, that was kind of a theme. So from a consumptive perspective, what are the consuming industries? How do you really plan for the future using from the data? Moving to, let me see if I can connect with the question. So let me come back to the foresee the execute. The second question, do you we absolutely, because the second question I want to address that since there was a dissent from the first group. The outcome, do you agree with the implied outcome, holistic view of one water digital system could inform policy governance and even future design? Emerging theme from all of us were that it could. So we saw tremendous value coming out of it. If we could achieve the vision, where we can get the unified and curated data. Question number 4, how do you foresee execution? So since I answered the second part, the first part of the question, we saw the execution from creating regionally aggregated data for various stakeholder accessibility. What we mean by that is, because if you look at, in the end, if we achieve the smart one water vision, what is that going to look like? One giant data set that everybody use. So we thought, it could be more beneficial. It could be regionally aggregated, with a very focus for, the defined stakeholders' use and accessibility. A couple of other comments were identify and aggregate data. It come from the barrier I mentioned before because there is no unifying event in a fragmented sector. So the aggregation theme came along. Create the equivalence of electric industry, smart water grid. I commented on that before. And then also one of the barrier identified was the security itself. Because the way how anytime the industry is emerging with so many technology providers, non-uniformity and all. So creating security standards, probably even maybe following the NERC standards or something similar, so that way it's we have a security focus given there. The last question, the utility, the use. Can you identify scenarios the communities, the region serve the use of it? So we saw the use for infrastructure planning, operational planning, resiliency planning, and then finally economic development planning. So those are the 4 areas where we saw the biggest utility of the data that could be benefited from. Anything else to add?
No, you did a great job.
Great. So we had done any other comments from that group? What about USGS, EPA, DHS? Steve, yeah, go ahead.
So from the USGS perspective, it's really helpful to know how our information and science knowledge and data are used. And so, this effort, as Smart One Water effort, has the potential. First of all, we'd like to be part of creating that water accounting network, and it's got the potential also to help us make resource allocation decisions on what we collect, what we focus on, and that's very, very important for us because we have limited resources.
Great. David, from EPA perspective?
So from the EPA perspective, one of the things that I think is complex in this is disaster recovery, where you have many different areas. You've got water, wastewater systems, you've got the watershed planning, and you've got, and disasters, it affects all of them, but to have a coordinated recovery, you need expertise and you need that data from all the different sources. And I think it would be helpful both to have it for a region, but also to be able to learn from other regions that did disaster recovery, because it can have a tremendous effect on the overall economic driver of the community, and time is really key. If it doesn't happen quickly and you have trouble getting this overall picture of what's been impacted and how best to recover from it, it could be detrimental to communities in terms of bouncing back.
Great. Steve?
I think the only other thing that we discussed that maybe didn't come quite through in the summary was really identifying what the overarching problems are that we're trying to address with the One Water proposal. We talked about things like population movement that is either placing new stresses on existing systems or actually removing some of the load from existing systems as people move around. We talked about agricultural usage of water and some other things that place stresses on the One Water system. So I think it'd be helpful to kind of identify what some of these overarching drivers are for the One Water proposal, and then how are we going to solve those problems through the types of things that are described in the SOW.
Right, that's a good point. So let me discuss the agriculture water. When we submitted our proposal, and Meghna and Paulo, you can answer me, we didn't include agriculture water, right? So, right, not to the extent, we just talk in general, and one reviewer really came very hard on that. So what's the overall that we should include the agriculture water? We just included like in a general to understand the source, but not get into very detail.
And I think what we were really getting at, Sunil, was what are these overall trends or drivers that really make the case for why Smart One Water is an important step. And I think we talk a lot about integrating data sources and things like that in the proposal, but the question that's always in my mind is what's the purpose for doing that? And that will actually drive what data you access and how you use it.
Right. No, that's a good point. Okay, so one more before we go for lunch. So coming back to Biju, in your presentation, you said the one comment came is in our proposal, how this will be implemented if this is successful, like you said, the regional or watershed utility. Can you little bit elaborate on that? Is it we need a new governance structure, or with the existing somehow we can implement by modifying or tweaking it instead of creating a new organization or new?
Sure. So the my presentation and reference to 4 delineated value chains, and then governing with that, and then the watershed managing utility as a separate utility, riding over a regional utilities, stormwater, and then coordinating all 3. So that was from a utility operational perspective. But from a center perspective, our suggestion is what we presented here, though you will have a center that's managing, create aggregated data based on region rather than the whole nation. Because so national electric grid is an easy one. You can envision it nationally.
Connectivity is there.
Exactly, but when it comes to water, you have to figure out, where you're going to draw, those the boundaries, the highest possible, but at least easily contained with the data and then usefulness of data. So that would be collectively our opinion from here was that just creating regionally aggregated data for stakeholder accessibility, which means or utility. So that's we don't have a recommendation for how many, but probably some of the federal partners may have, especially USGS may have a better handle on that.
Oh, right. I think this map came from USGS. I don't know if I have that map here. You guys, that one. That is basically, if we remove the whole infrastructure and all those, that I believe that came from USGS.
Okay. Was that from our integrated water availability?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So that is the natural boundary, right? That's the bigger one. Red is the Mississippi Basin.
Okay.
Those are all river tributaries. So something in that way you are talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can make another point also from the perspective of USGS, this business of integration is really important because we focused, primarily on kind of the natural world, natural resources. We understand water supply pretty well, but water use information is much harder to get. And so it's information that really comes from the private sector, from municipalities, right? It comes from outside of USGS. And so it gets back to this issue of aggregation and, your smart water, one water vision really speaks to that. And so that's really important for us.
Okay, so is there any last thought process before we go for lunch? I know we are hungry, we didn't get breakfast.
So when you talk about the implementation, so I had thought about this when talk. How do you? So you get the grant. Everybody chases. Everybody's trying to get the money. You get the money, and then you go, oh shit, now what? So I think you need I think it should be set up. How you set up as a board, so that people have to have partnership to come in to get, to make a presentation. It should be like a university, a utility, or some of the consulting firms. And then not only they should have a diverse team, but their projects should be diverse.
Right.
So that you don't get, we want to study this, we want to study that. So to keep the whole concept together, you need to have a diverse team, a diverse project, but a group of people that make sure that issues out the grants to, they have to come in and give you a sales pitch. So I guess that's how you would implement, because then you have people on a group and say, implement. Well, I don't want to implement that because it's of no use to us. This way you can, if you have that diversity. So this thought on that.
Sure. No. And we will discuss more in our third session. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. This is what we wanted in this, we planned this workshop to get as much feedback. So we have 2 more panel sessions after lunch, but let's have a food and then we get energy back. Okay.